Hey, good evening. Good Monday evening to you guys. How are you? It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. Of course, I am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, and welcome to this little thing, this crazy little thing called the Delver's Dungeon. And if you're new here, if you're wondering what it is we do here, if you're just trying out the view here, well, I'll tell you what. 5 nights a week, we live stream. Well, we, meaning myself, I don't have a mouse in my pocket, but I do have one on my table. We live stream the best in classic tabletop role-playing game news, views, let's plays, advice, Q&As, guests, and all sorts of fun stuff. So if you're one of the dozens of people who subscribed over the course of the last month, thank you, welcome. It is good to see you, and it's good to be seen by you. And of course, this live stream is brought to you, as always, by our friends at Hellebarde Games. And Hellebarde makes the kind of adventures that they like to play, whether it's for Castles and Crusades, whether it's for 5th edition or the OSR. Old School is in play at the table with Hellebarde, and you can find them on their website at hellebardegames.com or on DriveThruRPG. You should definitely give them a look because we love us some Hellebarde around the Delver's Dungeon. So thank you everyone once again for being here this evening. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had kind of a lousy weekend and a really negatively frantic day today. It is what it is. I was in not great physical health for a good chunk of Saturday, and effects that have kind of lingered on into today. But I'll get over it, or I'll I'll drop dead. One of the two things will happen. Oh, excuse me, YouTube, I'll unalive. But anyway, we've got stuff now. Let me see here. What's been going on? So I gotta share this with you. It's kind of part of the preamble ramble. So I have the inevitable Dell Optiplex that everybody grabbed one of when human malware struck, and actually I got mine before then. This is so dumb. It was a 4th gen i5 with 8 gigs of RAM and a 500 gig hard drive. Not a bad machine at all. And a company I was contracting for was like, we determined that this computer was where malware came from. Go scrap this PC. We don't want it in the office anymore. And I was like, you can just blow away the hard drive. Or if you're worried about it, just throw the hard drive in the trash. I'll back over it with my car a few times and you can put a new hard drive in. No, we don't want to risk that. So I brought it home, and I had a much better computer than I had for a long time. Well, it's knocked around. It was the streaming PC for this show for a long time, and it's time for it to move on. I popped a GT 1030 in it, 120 gig SSD, threw a blank install of Win 10 on it, and I think it's got 16 gigs of RAM now. It may still just be 8. I don't know. But the point is, it's that ever reliable, yes, you can play Grand Theft Auto at medium settings at about 40 frames a second on this PC now. But the funny thing is that I came up with this crazy idea because back when I first got the PC, I was like, oh, I want to upgrade this to an i7. Well, an i7 CPU was still north of $120, a 4th gen i7, because they're great chips. They're great processors still. They hold on to their value. I think they've hit the wall with Starfield. Like, there's no combination of video card and 4th gen that will make Starfield run good. But A few weeks ago, I bought a Xeon processor for it, which is like an i7. And the 4th gen stuff, the price is just bottomed out. And so I dropped I got the 4th gen. And today I'm going to do this. I'm going to build this PC together because I still felt like crap, and let me tell you what, feeling bad, feeling sick really impacts your creativity. I can do repetitive stuff, I can do just repetitive stuff, but like the 3D modeling I wanted to get done this weekend didn't happen. The writing I wanted to get done this weekend didn't happen. So I started looking for this chip because I bought it weeks ago and it should be somewhere in this zoo, this mess. And I go looking for it and I can't find it. But what I did find was the chip that I'd been telling you guys about to upgrade this PC with. And I was like, aha, well, at least I can get that done. So I unplug this rat's nest of cables from the streaming PC. And I drop in the new chip, power on the thing, 5 harsh beeps, and all the LED lights for power, CD-ROM, hard drive activity on the front just strobe red. And I'm like, oh crap, what have I done? Thank you, LHRPG. Hey, LHRPG, I was absolutely willing to give you a shout out the other night, but you popped out again. If you want to send me the link on socials that you'd like me to share for whatever thing it is you've got going, I'll do that. Thank you very much. Oops, not that one. That one. So I put the new processor in this, and I've got like an hour and a half before I have to go pick up my wife from work, Mrs. the Dungeon Delver, and it's just not happening. So I'm like, great, no show tonight, unless I get the Dell and throw everything on it, which will take hours to configure. But I monkeyed around with it and I figured out what was wrong. It was the new processor didn't like the old memory configuration, so I pulled out a couple of memory boards, and now it's just fine. I'm just gimped. I only have 32 gigs of RAM instead of the 48. So today was kind of a frantic pain in the ass. And while I was doing it, while I was crawling around under the table, I got entangled in my studio lights cables because they're all powered off USB. And as I'm under the table trying to dig my workstation out so I can work on it, I hear literally this avalanche, this crashing sound as my studio lights all collapse onto my table. And all I can picture in my mind's eye is my resin Travelers in that you guys have sometimes seen over here, and a bunch of Dwarven Forge literally just being smashed to flinders, which fortunately didn't happen. And I was like, well, if my lights don't work, I guess I'll be working under a single bulb, but fortunately they still worked. So today sucked, and this weekend sucked. I didn't care for them. 0 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend. But this PC is at least working now, and it's got a faster processor, so hopefully it'll behave. And if anyone is in the Longwood, Florida area and would like a lightweight gaming PC, I have one for sale. Let me know. But anyway, so once again, lots of folks have subscribed, and I thank you for that. This weekend, we jumped up like 8 more subs this weekend. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. I do. But we have stuff to do. I have a mail call that I'm going to do tomorrow. The entire preamble ramble before we play AD&D tomorrow on Livestream for your entertainment is going to be taken up by mail call. And I say that because the box that the mail call came in is out on the dining room table. And if you could see how mantra sword I am in this sitting space, you would not even think the phrase, "Hey, Bill, why don't you just go get it? We'll wait." There's no easy getting in and out of here. So there is something for Mail Call Monday on Tuesday, but I have other things for us today. For example, guess what, guys? It's the return of the miniature diorama, the dungeon diorama. So let's take a quick look and see what's going on in the dungeon. Not much of a story today. I'm going to be honest with you. Not much of a story today, but I just want to show off this mini real quick and take a gander at this. This is a Games Workshop Black Dragon that Mrs. the Dungeon Delver painted up for me once upon a time. And I love this mini and the story that goes with it. That's not a D&D story. And that is as good as the focus gets. So don't start yelling at me, focus, focus, focus. That's as good as it gets. So anybody who's upset about that and wants to buy me another DSLR, my PayPal info is in the crawl. So for a guy who bags on Games Workshop as much as I do, and I do ceaselessly give Games Workshop the shit, I sure have a lot of GW stuff, don't I? Does that make me a bit of a hypocrite? Well, I bought it in the late 90s before GW began the suck. And so here's the story. I left my job of 6 years to go work for the Army, and that's not a metaphor for I joined the Army. I mean, literally, there was a civilian contracting position open, and it was after September 11th, 2001, and I felt like maybe I can do something for my country because I was 31 at the time, and I was in pretty much this shape, and I just didn't foresee the Army taking me, nor my wife letting me go. So, I left my job and my boss to go work a new job. And my boss despite the fact that I had taken literally almost every day of vacation, my boss, Sean Sullivan, reported back to HR that I had all of my vacation time and they essentially had to pay me a month's pay. So when I got my pay envelope, the last pay envelope, I opened it up and I was like, holy Hannah. Because for dinks, dual income, no kids, for dinks, that amount of money was scandalous at the time. So I went to a little FLGS called Giant Comic Book Warehouse, which was a misnomer because it was in a bay, not too much larger than my studio, run by a really swell guy, and I wish I could remember his name. But he... I walked in and I had been looking at this. I've been looking at this Bloodthirster model that you got. I'm pointing at, like you guys can see it. The Bloodthirster model that I've shown you guys before. Some Lizard Men, some Sisters of Battle. Just stuff that I just thought was cool looking. I just bought cool looking models. And I probably dropped $200, $300, $400, $500, $600. Nowadays, $500 or $600 on miniatures, if you buy them from Games Workshop, is a dozen or 2 dozen. Wrap your head around that. But I got like whole armies of Bretonnians to use as mercenaries in my AD&D game. Empire soldiers, zombies, goblins, orcs, skeletons, some metal black orcs. From Warhammer Fantasy, and this dude. And my wife took it and painted it up, and there it is in all of its glory. So I hope you guys appreciate it, because that is this week's Dungeon Diorama. My wife's wonderfully painted Black Dragon miniature. But anyway, be well, Dungeon Minister. So that's the story behind this week's Dungeon Diorama. I didn't actually I didn't use them as a Tomb King's army, because this is like this is a dark elf, I guess, dark Eldar army for Warhammer Fantasy Battles. This is like a hero or anti-hero, but I got it to use with D&D. If it had just been the Black Dragon by itself without a saddled rider, I would have been just as fine. Yeah, no, there's a writer there, but you can't, obviously, the camera's not going to show you shit. So I hope you got a good look at it. So that's this week's Dungeon Diorama. And even if it's not an actual story, I'll try and bring you guys a story with this stuff. So anyway, what else is going on? Well, we have some RPG news. I gave a lot of RPG news on Friday, of course. Bill Willingham quitting DC and releasing the entire Fables comic line to public domain. Wow, what a move. How bold. And if you don't know who Bill Willingham is, you should, because he's one of the unsung pioneers of classic Dungeons and Dragons artwork. There's a slight nudie cutie Centaurus you get with a little side boob in B3. You guys know the one I'm talking about. Of course, the triptych of giants on the cover of G123 against the giants. Bill Willingham was all over early Dungeons and Dragons, but he went on to have a very successful career as an independent comic artist, and he is fed up with dealing with the asshattery coming out of DC, and has just said, you know what? I own this stuff, lock, stock, and barrel. You guys are only leasing it from me, and you're not going to mutilate it. Here. And he released it to public domain. He essentially brought its marketability to zero, other than the massive amounts of goodwill. And I say, good on you. As I said, I jumped into the Nerdcognito podcast to talk about this on Saturday before I started feeling extremely, extremely unwell. I did rattle on about this quite a bit. I want to get paid. You guys are not going to get free modules out of me anymore. But honestly, if I was working for Hazards of the Cost, and they were dicking me around, I would just turn around and say, there, I just released my stuff for free. I can completely understand it. It is, oh, did I? No, I didn't see DC's response. Well, to quote the G-Man, we'll see about that. By the way, if you're a grown-up, first of all, don't Google this at work or around your loved ones or on a device you're not absolutely willing to completely scrub. He did was it 10 issues, 12 issues run of a very, very adult comic book called Ironwood. The story is satirically funny. The art is sumptuous. I do recommend if you have a stomach for such things, if that won't scandalize you too much. But that's funny, Elle. That is hilarious. I would like to see them try. But to continue. So that was the RPG news that I talked about on Friday. Ernie Gygax continues to feel better. Get better, but he's feeling better. He's feeling himself. So we're all in for Ernie. But I do have actual RPG news for you guys this evening. Do you want the RPG news first, or you know what? Let's do the look ahead at the week. As I said, tomorrow night we live stream first edition AD&D. And if you're new to the show, if you're like, what do you mean you live stream AD&D? Like Critical Role? No, not like Critical Role. We actually play Dungeons and Dragons First Edition Advanced. I am taking a party through Keep on the Borderlands. They are having a rollicking good time. There have been character deaths, departures, arrivals, what have you, so on and etc. It is a great time. If you've never played First Edition AD&D, and you want to know what's going on screen at a given time, ask questions in the chat. Ask me, ask the players, and we'll do our darndest to answer your questions, because it's not just entertaining, it's informative. It's meant to inform you, to help you understand, embrace, and bring closer, hopefully, to your heart the awesomeness that is First Edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I really think if you haven't played it, take this opportunity to watch and see how it unfolds. And I think what you'll find is some damn fine gaming goodness. Okay? There's some damn fine gaming goodness under there. But we don't script these out. I don't sit down with my players and say, oh, now Vrug Dorn plays an important part in this week's coming adventure, so here's what you should do. Here's what you should say. He's a crowd pleaser. That's just not how it works. The party could blunder into a wandering encounter and be dead 10 minutes into Tuesday's game. The dice will decide. And then what will I do for the rest of the live stream? Well, we'll have to talk to the players about what new characters are going to roll up. Because that's how we roll. So, anyway, moving on. That is Tuesday. And we'll do mail call before then, because I got a really cool mail call product. And then Wednesday would nominally be where Kyle would be at over here, virtually speaking. He's actually, let me see. So that's west. So he's over there, I think. He's in Australia. He's in that direction. Or maybe it's, no, I think it's in that direction. Not that direction, but that direction. But anyway, so normally Kyle would be here, and he's not going to. Kids are out on school break for a few weeks. So we're going to be doing some reviews. We're going to be doing some on Thursday. We're going to be doing How to Dungeon Master First Edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's an ongoing series I'm doing on Thursdays unless I have a guest. Now Friday we'll have a little preamble ramble, and then guess what? We're going to play some First Edition Gamma World, because you guys like the Gamma World. The world, it's Gamma, you like it. So we're going to be doing that. So there's our week, guys. That's, I wish I could get away with playing heavy action, which you guys know the tune. If you grew up watching Monday Night Football as a kid, dun 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 dun, dun, that heavy action, just look it up on YouTube. I wish I could play that as I'm telling you guys what we're going to do during the week. It would fit perfectly, and then YouTube's foot would fit perfectly up my hind end. So I can't do that. But anyway, so that's what's going on during the week. Now, let's talk about some RPG news that's going on. And I've got this pulled up already, so I'm gonna add this to screen. One is kind of an interesting piece, and the other is sort of a sad thing. It happened actually a couple of weeks ago, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So let's look at this first, and this comes to us from CBR. Now, look, I understand that there's a lot of people out there who will turn their noses up at virtual tabletop and say, that's not real D&D. You might as well be playing a video game. And to those people, I say, Tim Kask got his job at TSR playing virtual tabletop D&D with Gary. Gary Gygax and Tim Kask playing Dungeons and Dragons together isn't real D&D to you because they were using a VTT. Or I should say PTT, phone tabletop. It was the virtual tabletop of its day. And they played for hours. So yes, playing on a VTT is Dungeons and Dragons. Now look, if you're in the same house or the same neighborhood or town with people, get together, go to your comic store. But I mean, my Monday night group, which I'm going to join here in a little while, my Monday night group, they're scattered from Georgia all the way to Portland, Oregon, and almost everywhere in between. I have 10 people. I've got folks in Pennsylvania. I've got folks in Jersey. I've got folks in Chicago. I've got folks in Portland, Arizona. Is your preference that I do without, that I not get to play D&D? No, and of course not. And I love the people that I play D&D with. They're awesome folks. I mean, I prefer to, if I hit the lottery, if I hit like $1 billion lottery, I'd be like, once a week, you'll get a ticket to fly an executive jet to a location in the center of the U.S. You know, we'll just all fly into Chicago and meet at like, you know, some hotel penthouse and play all night, and then you fly back out in the morning, or even late that evening if you have to go, you know. And I would space the games out a little bit more. God knows I would love to play with these people face to face, but I can't. And in lieu of that, it's virtual tabletop, and one of the biggest virtual tabletops is Roll20. Now, am I a fan of Roll20? Not really. The software is okay. The radio, that is the voice over IP, sucks. The camera sucks. But until recently, their managed tabletop has been okay. They're getting bad UI featureitis. That's just my opinion. But they've added something here: dungeon scroll functionality for real-time D&D map making, which I actually kind of approve of. If you're using the Dungeon Master's Guide, like you saw Kyle and I randomly create a dungeon live, you can now do that for your players in real time with Roll20. So let's read up on this. DMs will be able to make their own maps in real time with the integration of the online map making site Dungeon Scrawl into Roll20. The online tabletop multi-tool popular with Dungeons & Dragons players has revealed plans to implement the map-making tool Dungeon Scrawl into its myriad features. Roll20's official blog posted they'll reportedly integrate user-made Dungeon Scrawl maps into players' online campaigns. Not only this, but they'll now allow players to create maps in real time as players progress through the campaign, which opens up possibilities for dynamic storytelling and last-minute changes to the player area. The leader in online map making services for tabletop games, Dungeon Scrawl lets players create custom maps for their games, including a variety of customization options from grid shapes to furniture. On the site, users can choose between hexagonal or square-shaped grids, add furniture from both built-in assets within the website or their own custom-made ones, and even choose between aerial or isometric views. While map making tools have existed for D&D for years, Dungeon Scrawl is one of the most popular ones due to its apparent ease of use and accessibility features. While many online dungeon masters use pre-made maps created on the site for their campaigns, official integration of Dungeon Scrawl into what is known as the virtual tabletop board or tabletop games played online will reportedly lessen the number of steps necessary to use player-made dungeon maps. Roll20, meanwhile, effectively serves as the virtual equivalent of a dinner table hosting various tabletop games like D&D. The site allows users to upload their own official D&D character sheets, manage stats and in-game inventory, and soon even create area maps on the fly, among a host of other features. Andrew Searles, the principal manager for Roll20, also mentioned several ideas the team has for future updates to Dungeon Scroll's VTT integration, such as an easier method of map exports to the site and a shared library of user-made maps that players can download along with other unrevealed concepts. However, he also iterates that these ideas are just that, and there are no official plans for their implementation at this time. According to Roll20, there is no strict timeline for the implementation of Dungeon Scrawl will occur, though they have assured fans that the website and its services will remain fully active in the meantime. From there, players can still export their maps to Roll20, and its overall design will remain unchanged even after the integration, maintaining user access to its full array of features. We'll see about that. Roll20's official Dungeon Scrawl integration still has no set date, though the site has already begun working on it, so it will only be a matter of time before DMs can make huge, expansive dungeons on the fly while their players explore. In the meantime, users can test the site's full array of features at Roll20's website. So very interesting. It is kind of interesting because Dungeon Scroll, I've used it before. I like it. It's kind of a free-handed mapping tool. But we'll see what is going on with the with Dungeon Scroll in the future, and I hope it remains true. But let's hop over here. Hey, greetings necromancy for kids. Wonderful to see you. What did I address? Wait, what did I address Friday? Hang on, let me scroll up. I missed things because I was reading. And hello, Kabuki. Unity has been pulling something similar. Yes, we talked about that. Yes, Unity. Awful things that Unity are doing. Anyway, so that's what's going on with Dungeon Scroll and Roll20. Now, I've run first edition AD&D Orbital Air on Roll20 flawlessly. There's even like fillable character sheets and so on and etc. built into Roll20. So I myself don't have a problem playing AD&D on Roll20. With that said, I haven't really used it a lot lately because on our Discord that we play D&D on, we have a dice roller, and I have a lot of Dwarven Forge. So, I'll aim the camera there down at the table, and we'll do Dwarven Forge on nights that we need minis and stuff. So anyway, that's the news from them, and that's over on cbr.com if you want to go read and comment, share it out, and all that jazzmatazz. But for a bit of unfortunate news, and this is from earlier in the month. Now, I have myself look. I'm not a huge fan of Vampire the Masquerade, Magic the Gathering, or anything, but honestly, I think we can, this is kind of something we can all relate to. So this is Teowen Woodruff, MTG, Vampire the Masquerade, and D&D writer. Yes, did some Ravenloft stuff. has passed away. And this was back on the 4th of September. So this was a couple of weeks ago. Acclaimed Magic the Gathering and tabletop game designer T1 Woodruff passed away on August 28th, 2023. Woodruff's passing was confirmed in September. The second Twitter post by her husband, Mike. Magic the Gathering head designer Mark Rosewater recognized her contribution to the game's history the following day. Rosewater noted that Woodruff's work on Magic the Gathering, including being on the design teams for Weatherlight, 7th edition, and Apocalypse, as well as the development teams for Nemesis, Prophecy, Planeshift, and 7th edition. Rosewater described Woodruff as a passionate proponent of representation of women and minorities, and someone whose work helped push Magic to be more thoughtful in how we made cards. And there's the tweet there. A tabletop gamer from a young age, Woodruff's career spanned far beyond Magic the Gathering, with her talents appearing everywhere from tabletop games to television media and interviews. Woodruff's extensive catalog of works include Dungeons & Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Mage the Ascension, Wrath the Oblivion, Battletech, Netrunner, Duel Masters, Dreamblade, Betrayal at House on the Hill, and the first 3 Pokemon trading card games. She was a freelance contributor to AD&D in both books and Dungeon Magazine Adventures when the game was owned by TSR. Guys, she was one of us. And she would go on to work on D&D again under Wizards of the Coast. Woodruff's tenure at WotC began in 1995, with her lending her work to numerous card and board games, and even a potential Magic the Gathering role-playing game that was ultimately canceled in 1996. During this time, Woodruff was a sole author on a number of works, including Van Richten's Guide to Fiends, which followed Van Richten's Guide to the Created, she wrote the previous year. Woodruff co-founded Lone Shark Games following the end of her time at Wizards of the Coast in 2005, which focused on large-scale games and events for conventions like Gen Con. Woodruff's impact on gaming as a whole has been noted throughout the industry, with Nicole Brodier of Seattle Times previously noting that Woodruff brings a female sensibility to the male-dominated world of games and puzzles. I could argue that, but this is neither the time nor the place. Woodruff's passing came on Monday, August 28, as a result of cardiac arrest. She is survived by her husband, Mike. So someone, who is, was part of the, part of the industry, worked on 2nd edition, worked on some stuff you guys may have seen, may have played. We, of course, our big respects to her husband, Mike. Sympathies go out to him at this time. So anyway, to go back to what we happier things. We were talking about VTTs. We were talking about we were talking about virtual tabletops. It's interesting to see this degree of integration, and I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see a lot more balkanization of little stuff like this. We know that Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, are poising themselves to be the Microsoft of tabletop. Whether you, I guess White Wolf doesn't really exist in any meaningful way anymore, but so I guess that would leave Paizo as the Apple of tabletop RPGs. And I know that WotC has occasionally done VTT stuff with other companies, but I think what we're going to see from WotC is very much an extend, embrace, exterminate stance going forward in the future. I think we're going to see a lot of companies eaten. Now, listen, if a company shows up with a dump truck full of money and says, Roll20, we want you. We'll take that now. That belongs to us. Here's all the money. Oh, you don't want to do that? We'll talk to your investors and see how they feel about that. Funny thing, we just talked to your investors and they want you gone because they want that money. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, a lot of that coming out of situations like this with Roll20. Who's going to get to Roll20 first? Because, you know, Wizards of the Coast, they've demoed that tabletop, and by many accounts, it's awful. But if they suffocate all the competition, you know, I mean, remember how bad Windows 98 First Edition was? Windows ME, Windows Vista? Millions, hundreds and millions of people installed all those operating systems. Who here remembers Windows 2.1? Unstable, buggy, crashy mess. People still bought it and installed it. Windows 3.0, not much better. So what we're going to see is basically Hasbro. I struggle to say Hasbro sometimes when I'm thinking of WotC because, I mean, let's face it, WotC is just tattooed across Hasbro's knuckles. They're not a WotC, you're not a real company. It's Hasbro. You've been Hasbro for almost 2 decades now. People getting mad, WotC does this, WotC. Hasbro. Okay? They just have a few offices with some resin D&D armor and some forgettable fantasy art hanging on the walls, okay? That's it. So, yeah, there's the extend, embrace, exterminate mindset going on. They're going to suffocate out all the competition, and that's going to include Roll20. So Roll20 is pulling up their big boy britches, and they're trying to get as much stuff under them, either to have the best price that they can when WotC comes knocking and asks them for, asks them for 5 minutes alone with their checkbook, or to try and leverage as much of their audience, because Roll20 is a fairly large gorilla in its own right, to stave off WotC coming down on them. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I would say hang on to your cash with both hands. And honestly, with all the tools that are available now, like I said, you can add a dice bot to a Discord channel like that. You can have your documents, your tabletop stuff open, right-click, copy image, click in Discord, paste to keep people updated on where they're at on a map. Was that the Pinkerton knock? Yeah, no kidding. Now, I have for funsies, like deliberately just upgraded over and over again, but not on anything system critical, just to see how far I could drive it. I should drag out all my install disks one day and set up a VM and just like start back with, I think I have Windows 3.1 install floppies, and just, install 3.1, upgrade 95 over it, upgrade 98 SE over it, upgrade Windows ME over that, upgrade Windows 2000 over that, upgrade Windows XP over that, and just keep layering them on and on just until something utterly and completely breaks. There's YouTube videos you can find of people who do that. But anyway, to get back to this, 1998 second edition was still in the saddle. It was not for another 2 years the 3E came out on. But anyway, But yeah, I mean, Roll20 has the advantage of catering to literally every flavor of Dungeons and Dragons, every flavor of hero system, Call of Cthulhu, Atomic Highway, Made of the RPG. There's somebody probably sitting out there with an empty VTT with their arms folded and looking very, very intently, upsetly at the screen with, fatal 5 openings, AMA, kind of thing. There's probably a Roll20 group for any game you could imagine. But you don't, like I said, you don't even need Roll20. You just need Discord. You just need a good audio video system that lets you like paste images in, honestly. But if you have to VTT, I recommend Roll20. Although Volcano God, if he was on right now, would probably be yelling at me in chat because, of course, Fantasy Grounds. Fantasy Grounds is locally hosted by the Dungeon Master. But if there's not a Fantasy Ground module for what you're going to do, you got to kind of fake it, And plus, Wizards of the Coast can shut down Fantasy Ground any minute. Because the people who created the 2E module for Fantasy Ground, on which the 1E module for Fantasy Ground is built, had to ask permission from Wizards of the Coast. And the reason they did is there's a digital store. You can buy plugins for your Fantasy Ground install. And if they reference D&D stuff, WotC's got to be involved in that. Yeah, see, I mean, go all the way back. D&D on IRC with DiceBots. Oh, damn, L, that's right. Oh, that's right. Fantasy Grounds built on Unity. Uh-oh. Oh, snap. I'm reminded of that scene in Saving Private Ryan when some random U.S. soldier on the beach, there's this pew thunk. And like a bullet dazes him because it bounces off his helmet. And the guy next to him goes, "You are one lucky SOB." And he takes his helmet off to look at the dent. And the next shot unalives him because he doesn't have a helmet on. So, yeah, that is kind of like Fantasy Grounds right now. The first thunk comes in from WotC and the OGL. And then they're forced to back down a little bit. And they take off their helmet and boom, there's Unity. God, that sucks. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know there's a crap ton of stuff that's built on Unity. I don't know much about Unity at all. But I do know that, somebody told me Portal from Valve is built on Unity, but I don't believe that. Portal is built on Source. I mean, that's why you can load it into Gary's mod. That's why you can load Portal levels into Half-Life 2, and you can load Half-Life 2 resources into Portal, which confuses GLaDOS. No, Vaughn. Fantasy Grounds is Fantasy Grounds. It's its own company. And by the way, can I just say something? For being 20 years old, Source still looks gorgeous. Source is still a damn fine-looking engine for its age. Now, granted, you're limited. You're not going to rebuild Far Cry in Source because Source lets you build a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer map. That's it. In 2003, that was gargantuan. That was unbelievably huge. And to be honest, there's Half-Life 2 maps that feel like you just go on forever. You really only just go a couple hundred meters. And if it's further, it's because it has you switching back and forth. You don't realize it, but you're going, you're zigzagging back and forth through a map. You're making the same trip on different levels back and forth, so it feels like it's really long, but you're never leaving that 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer box. Or maybe it's 2, I don't know. But anyway, Among Us, that's right, Among Us is Unity. Genshin Impact, that's wild. Yeah, Half-Life 2 on top difficulty is no kidding around. I mean, there's some combine ambushes on Highway 17 that to this day I get PTSD over on hard mode. And I'm not even talking about the shootout at the lighthouse at the end of it. Now that would be an interesting RPG, man. RPG man. Rise and shine, Dr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes. No, I do like a City 17 RPG before Gordon arrives, so nobody can be like, I'm going to be Gordon Freeman. I'm going to run around in an HEV suit. I had a crowbar and a gravity gun. No, you're just a schmuck with an SMG hiding in the sewers, hoping you don't get head crabbed or barnacled or stride in toxic waste. Give the players crowbars and nothing else. Undermountain with fit and source. Yeah. Was I doing Dr. No, that was my attempt at G-Man. Rise and shine, Dr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. Anyway, yes, the insider trading thing that's going on too. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much everything that's going on. I sound like Kiefer Sutherland in Dark City. You know what? I should just log into my. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw some G-Man voice clips into 11 Labs and just have them as sound bites. Roll for initiative, Dr. Freeman. Just stuff like that. Just have a soundboard over here of G-Man playing D&D for you guys. Would you guys like that? Do that on the show? Dark City is phenomenal. Dark City is really. I love Dark City. All these people just like raving about the Matrix when I went to see Dark City, and then the Matrix came out like around the same time. I'm like, I just left this movie, except it was better. It was better over there with William Hurt and Gabriel Byrne. This is a little RPG news. This is a little bit of RPG news then. And I mentioned this on Friday, and of course I don't have a link now. I cleaned up my PC when I rebuilt it today. I don't know if it's Surtech, a company. If you go to GOG, if you're a fan of wizardry, If you're a fan of Wizardry from 1979, the Apple II, IBM PC, of course, I think PC Junior, Commodore 64. Anyway, it was the first dungeon crawler RPG and first-person perspective dungeon crawler RPG. And it was very Dungeons and Dragons, but it was called Wizardry. And the exclamation point is important. That is being re-released. There is a brand. I don't just mean they're like, yeah, you can buy it, you can play it in DOSBox on your PC. I mean, it's all the original dungeons, all the original encounters and everything, but they've built up a 3D graphical engine around it. So I'm excited about it. It's available for early bird purchase over on Good Old Games. I don't know if they're including a copy of Wizardry, Proving Ground of the Mad Overlord from 79, but they would be fools not to. So definitely go check that out. Wizardry is really, really good old school dungeon RPG that you should absolutely, positively check out for sure. But yeah, I want to play it. I want to play it. I want to, although one thing I will say, this is not a review. This is kind of, something that I always loved about Wizardry was that the darkness in the dungeons always added a creepy atmosphere to it. Like, the Proving Grounds and the Mad Overlord is not a safe place to be. And anytime you can light a torch or have a light source in a place that is ostensibly supposed to be nearly pitch black, it kind of takes you out of a little bit. And I'm guilty of doing this, like in Brutal Doom. Brutal Doom adds a flashlight, which is really cool because, it's really stretching John Romero and John Carmack's engine to its maximum limits. It's not just about the gore, but, there's a spread of different weapons. There's weapons physics. There's you physics. If you're tired of the 3-foot wall stopping you from getting to the next section of map, Brutal Doom's got you covered. You can crouch and go under things or jump and go over things, which pisses off John Romero to no end, apparently. But sorry, John. But you've also got a flashlight, and there are places in Doom 2 that are intended to be very atmospheric. Like you'll step around a corner and you'll hear that, and then that ripping sound as an imp starts taking off 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 hit points, and you're pistol, rocket launcher, no, damn it, trying to grab a weapon. And the flashlight, you just shine it down a hall, and then they see that you see them, and then they come charging, you whip out the shotgun, blamma, blamma, blamma. End of threat. So Wizardry, going to a full 3D model where there's torches and sconces on the walls and that sort of thing, light shining through sewer grates from up above. I don't know how I feel about that. So we'll have to see. Worst feeling ever in Wizardry is when your torch or magic light goes out because of darkness. Oh yeah. If you go in and you're like, crap, I'm in magical grayness, hit the arrow to move backwards. Turn around, go back where you came, march up those dungeon stairs, and get more light sources. Do not continue into that. I'll just map by bumping into stuff. That's how you fall in pits and find your beloved second level party is somewhere down in the mid 7s. That's called tilt-a-weight. Thermonuclear warhead is called tilt-a-weight. I love that name, tilt-a-weight. Translates from the Elvish to mean kablamo. And I'm not kidding. If you have the Wizardry game manuals, they explain all the spell names. There's Halito, good air, which creates light around your party. There's Mahalito, bad air, which is the equivalent of sleep. Magitech Doom. That sounds cool. Mail order monsters on the 64. That was a good one. Quake is a great game. Quake is ridiculously unsettling. It is relentlessly, like, Quake makes the inside of the back of your skull itch and you don't know why. Like, the whole time you're playing it, it's just like, something's not right. There's something. Big kudos to Sandy Peterson and the rest of the crew for instilling a truly effed up atmosphere in Quake. I have nothing but mad props, because it's like, what is it? Is it high tech? Is it fantasy? Has it got satanic elements? Are they just extra dimensional? You don't know. You don't know. Oh, yeah, Quake was amazing. I wanted to play Quake so much. I played Quake on a 486 DX280 with 8 megabytes of RAM and an ISA, a 1 megabyte ISA video card, and 320 by 200. I could maybe get around 5 to 8 frames a second. When the Quake source code got leaked, I'm going to wrap up with this story because this is kind of fun. When the Quake source code got leaked, hello, Miss Bella Games. It was right around the time that the Commodore Amiga in the US, the sun had set, Commodore USA had gone bankrupt, and it was in the process of sinking and sucking down the other pieces of Commodore International with it. But the Amiga was still popular enough in Europe that there were still games coming out for it. Not a lot of people know this, but Myst got released for the Amiga. Yes. But the question of copyrights in the newly open, because understand, we're talking like 4 or 5 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the removal of the Iron Curtain. So questions about copyright, that was all like up in the air. So when the source code for Quake was released, there was a company, was it ClickBoom? I don't want to wrongly accuse them of piracy, but basically they just said, oh yeah, we're releasing Quake for the Amiga. And id Software was like, well, no, nobody's doing anything. We haven't licensed anything. And it was this that actually prompted id Software to just say, you know what, after a few years, we just release our engines. Just go, have fun. Now, they're probably never going to do that again. None of the id Tech engines will ever be released freely again. So when Quake was snuck out, now you have to understand something. The Amiga had been sunset by dirt common PCs. Low-end Pentiums ate the Amiga's lunch. VLB video cards were a thing. PCI was right around the corner. PCs are inelegant compared to what the Amiga could do, but they could throw so much horsepower at a problem. And skilled programmers could make stuff work. Carmack and Company made a demo of Super Mario Brothers 2. Side-scrolling couldn't work on PCs. They made it work. Clever programming tricks can overcome. You can't do that. And so we get back to Quake on the Amiga. When ClickBoom released their port, if it was them, they offered like funky you needed a strong Amiga, which was very, very expensive because they didn't have economics of scale. And even then, like 160 by 240 was a good resolution, right? I mean, you want to talk about chunky and blocky, but you could do it. And at the time, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. I'm like, just buy a PC to play PC games. But looking back, my PC wasn't any great shakes. And like I said, it could barely run Quake. I understand the desire to want to play Quake under any circumstances. I get it. I absolutely, positively, unquestionably get it now. And yeah, playing it in half of a PC's resolution, maybe in just like a little window in the middle of the screen, that game's got something, and it gets you, its hooks into you. But anyway, so there's your PC history. Guys, I want to thank you all very much for hanging out with me tonight. We've got a fun week ahead of us. Like I said, Mail Call Tuesday. Tomorrow, we got something very cool. Again, it's out in the kitchen. I opened it up. I'm like, cool, mail call. And I left it sitting out on the table like an idiot. And by the way, if you'd like to support the show on Patreon, you can do that. There's the link to Patreon. Or you can subscribe to the show, which I think is over there, like down there. On YouTube. You can become a YouTube member. You can support the show on Patreon, or you can support us as a YouTube member for as little as $1 a month on Patreon or $2 a month on YouTube. I can't adjust the price down any smaller. I'm sorry. However, at the $10 level, the Master Thief level on Patreon, or as a YouTube membership, every month you will receive an advanced Dungeons and Dragons module written by myself or by my co-host Kyle Schuant. Kyle's is coming up probably next week for those of you who are at the appropriate membership level. So for just $10 a month, you get a free dungeon module in PDF form. You can slip it into a campaign. Just, I need something between point A and point B, or I need a reason for point B to exist, or I need something to jump the adventure off with. I got to have something to run at the comic store, at the convention, whatever. Or you just want to see some kick-ass writing from myself or Kyle. $10 a month. Every month you stay a member, you get a free, you get an adventure module. Obviously, you're paying for something and you're getting that. So thank you all very much. I should watch the old Warlock video about deities and demigods to talk about those parents and the books they use in their campaigns. I'll check it out. Thank you, like me. But anyway, thank you everyone for hanging out this evening. Again, I appreciate you all. I love you all. I'm going to go try and eat something and get ready for my first edition AD&D game tonight. As for you guys, what you should be doing is, of course, keeping your eyes open for owl bears. Peace. May the road rise up to meet you.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the